Welcome to Act 2 of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I hope you got through Act 1 fairly well. I think probably the most confusing part for me when I first read this and with analyzing it is that what is going on with Helena? Okay, so apparently Helena and Demetrius were dating. You don't really date during Shakespeare's time, but he expressed feelings for her and she fell for him, and then he kind of ditched her to go after Hermia. So it's not like she's just running after him for no reason. Like he's kind of a cad. He's a player. Yeah. So Demetrius is not the best guy. So what was always confusing to me is what is her plan? She is going to tell Demetrius about Hermia and Lysander running away because she hopes to get in his good graces, like that he'll be thankful that she did this and see her in a new light. Like, oh, she's trying to help me. Maybe she's wonderful after all. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a comedy and we've got to get everybody in the woods because that's where the magic happens. So, I am going to read to you a little bit from Act 2. All right. So, if you got a book from my porch, that's the one I'm reading from. Page 25, Act 2, Scene 1, a wood near Athens. Enter a fairy at one door. See my fairy wings? Woohoo! And a Robin Goodfellow or Puck at another. Now, a quick note about Robin Goodfellow. You'll see this character's name several different ways. So generally nowadays we refer to him as Puck. This is a character from English folklore. He's a trickster. He's mischievous. He's also referred to as Robin Goodfellow, Hobgoblin. He is a ship. You guys know how good I am with words. He is a shape shifter. So he can change his form, which is what he'll be talking about later. And if you watch the movie version that I recommended to you, you'll see him shape-shifting some in there. So that's one of his talents. And he just likes to cause mischief. Like, he doesn't necessarily want to kill anyone or like really permanently harm anyone, but he likes to scare people and just make them look ridiculous. So we have a fairy entering the woods from one side, Puck from the other, and they're saying, oh, didn't expect to meet you here because Titania and Oberon are fighting. So the fairy is from Titania's retinue, her group, and her groupie, and then Puck is Oberon's right-hand man, so to speak. So remember, Titania and Oberon are fighting, and so they're converging in this wooded area at the same time. What are we going to do? How now, spirit, whither wander you? Over hill, over dale, through a bush, through a briar, over park, over pale, through a flood, through a fire. I do wander everywhere, swifter than the moon's sphere, and I serve the fairy queen, to dew her orbs upon the green. The cowslips tall her pensioners be, in their gold coats spots you see. Those be rubies, fairy favors, in those freckles live their savors. I must go seek some dewdrops here, and hang a pearl in every cowslip's ear. Farewell, thou lob of spirits, I'll be gone. Our queen and all her elves come here anon. And Puck replies, the king doth keep his revels here tonight. Take heed the queen come not within his sight, for Oberon is passing fell and wrath, because that she, as her attendant, hath a lovely boy, stolen from an Indian king. She never had so sweet a changeling. And jealous Oberon would have the child knight of his train to trace the forests wild. But she perforce withholds the loved boy, crowns him with flowers and makes him all her joy. And now they never meet in grove or green, by fountain clear or spangled starlight sheen, but they do square, that all their elves for fear creep into acorn cups and hide them there. Fairy says, either I mistake your shape and making quite, or else you are that shrewd and knavish sprite called Robin Goodfellow. Are not you he that frights the maids of the villagery, skim milk and sometimes labor in the quern, and bootless make the breathless housewife churn, and sometime make the drink to bear no barm, mislead night wanderers, laughing at their harm. Those that hobgoblin call you, and sweet Puck, you do their work, and they shall have good luck. Are not you he? Thou speakest aright, I am that merry wanderer of the night. I jest to Oberon and make him smile. Okay, etc. I'll stop there. Okay, what is happening here? Well, the fairy says, I've come to put the dew on the grass and, do all my fairy natural world stuff, my duties for the day. And Puck says, oh no, the king doth keep his revels here tonight. Revels is one of your vocab words, and you'll see this word throughout. He's coming here to celebrate, to party. Take heed, the queen come not within his sight. Do not let the queen come within, don't let the queen come here. Don't let him see her, because she has stolen a little Indian boy from an Indian king. And she is raising him as her child. And Oberon is like, ooh, cool little kid. I want that kid. Coffee break. Okay, so this is the problem between them. This is the whole conflict, is that Titania has this little Indian boy, and Oberon wants the little Indian boy to be the knight of his train. Okay, so his little henchman, his little attendant. Okay, so if you know anything about gods, goddesses, fairies, very wealthy people, sometimes people in power, they're used to getting what they want. Okay, I want this, I want that. It doesn't matter why, they just want it, right? They're used to getting their way. So Oberon is the same thing. He sees this, it's like the shiny new object, right? And he can't have it. So that makes it even more worth his while, right? And it makes him very angry. Now, there is a backstory with this little boy, okay? There's an important backstory with it coming up. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead just a tiny little bit. Puck goes through all his tricks he likes to play on people, which you guys can go through, and there's some footnotes to help you with it because it's confusing. So finally, Oberon enters from Puck's side. Titania enters from the other side, and they have all their attendants with them. So I'm going to read through some of their dialogue. Starting with Oberon, this is line, I believe, 61, bottom of page 26. Ill met by moonlight, proud Titania. What, jealous Oberon? Fairies, skip hence. I have forsworn his bed and company. Tarry, rash wanton, am not I thy lord? Then I must be thy lady. But I know when thou hast stolen away from fairyland, and in the shape of Coran sat all day, playing on pipes of corn and versing love to amorous Phillida. Why art thou here, come from the farthest steep of India? But that, forsooth, the bouncing Amazon, your buskined mistress, and your warrior love, to Theseus must be wedded, and you come to give their bed joy and prosperity. How canst thou thus, for shame, Titania, glance at my credit with Hippolyta, knowing I know thy love to Theseus? Didst not thou lead him through the glimmering night from Perigenia, whom he ravished, and make him with fair Eagly break his faith with Ariadne and Antiopa? These are the forgeries of jealousy, and never since the middle summer's spring met we on hill, in dale, forest, or mead, by paved fountain, or by rushy brook, or in the beached margent of the sea, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind. But with thy brawls thou hast disturbed our sport. Therefore the winds, piping to us in vain, sorry, I lost my, okay, as in revenge, have sucked up from the sea contagious fogs, which, falling in the land, hath every pelting river made so broad that they have overborne their continents. The ox hath therefore stretched his yoke in vain, the ploughman lost his sweat, and the green corn hath rotted ere his youth attained a beard. Okay, let me go back and do some explanation here. All right, they've both mentioned Hippolyta and Theseus, so there's some connection between them. What do we know about gods and goddesses and fairies and people in power? They can do whatever they want, right? What they think they can. They're exempt from the rules of everyone else. So even though Oberon and Titania are, technically matched up as king and queen, let's just say they have an open relationship. All right, so Oberon has had some kind of relationship with Hippolyta in the past, and Titania has had some kind of relationship with Theseus. So they are coming kind of to the wedding, so to speak, to bless the wedding. That's why they both kind of ended up in the same place at the same time. Okay, and then Titania says, these are the forgeries of jealousy. You are jealous, and this strife is causing all of these problems in nature. She says, with thy brawls, thou hast disturbed our sport. With your fighting, you have disturbed our fun. They use the word sport to mean fun in general. You'll see that word quite a bit. So what's happening? Well, the fairies are in charge of nature. So if they're fighting, nature's going to be in discord. So the winds are picking up. We've got contagious fogs. We've got flooding. When she talks about the contagious fogs falling in the land have made the rivers overbear their continents, meaning the flooding. And then she goes on to talk about, as you guys can read on, other things that are happening. So I want to skip ahead to one more part that I'm going to read because I love this. I think it's really awesome imagery. I'm probably going to run out of time, but I'll try. So I'm skipping ahead to page 28, line 123. Titania explains to Oberon why she can't have the boy, why he's special. Set your heart at rest. The fairyland buys not the child of me. His mother was a votress of my order, and in the spiced Indian air by night full often hath she gossiped by my side, and sat with me on Neptune's yellow sands, marking the embarked traders on the flood. When we have laughed to see the sails conceive, and grow big-bellied with the wanton wind, which she, with pretty and with swimming gait following, her womb then rich with my young squire, would imitate and sail upon the land, to fetch me trifles and return again, as from a voyage rich with merchandise. But she, being mortal, of that boy did die, and for her sake do I rear up her boy, and for her sake I will not part with him. Oberon says, how long within this wood intend you stay? Perchance till after Theseus's wedding day. If you will patiently dance in our round and see our moonlight revels, go with us. If not, shun me, and I will spare your haunts. Give me that boy, and I will go with thee. Not for thy fairy kingdom. Fairies away! We shall chide downright if I longer stay. Okay. So, why is the boy special? She says that his mother was a votress of my order. She was a priestess. She was devoted to me. And they had a relationship that they would sit on Neptune's yellow sands. Neptune is the Roman goddess of the sea, marking the traders on the flood. Well, the flood would be the sea. So who are the traders coming in? Those would be the merchant ships coming in. And so he sets up this really cool metaphor. So they're watching the trade ships come in. The sails are growing big-bellied, right? So that's the wind catching the sails. So they look big-bellied as if they're pregnant. And then she, the Indian priestess, was also big-bellied. She would imitate the boats, the sailboats coming in, and sail upon the land, right? So she, being all pregnant and big, would walk into town and bring all kinds of little gifts and trinkets for Titania. So I just love that that imagery there. That's a really fun metaphor. So, she being mortal of that boy did die. You'll notice